all right. Miss Deanna Mitchell, can we get a big round of applause, please? Show some love. Show some
Yeah.
love. Deanna is just phenomenal. It's, you know, at ATS and Ricasa, you'll often hear us all refer to family. And most of the time we're talking about this family. And that's what makes it really special that you all could come join us, especially with this holiday season that's upon us. And we know that there have been some special challenges over this last year. 2020, it looks like it's going to go down in the history books in a way that most of us would have never imagined even just a few months ago. So we're thankful to have you here, and we want you to know that this is what we live and breathe for. This is, as Antonio would say, what we have burnt our boats at the shore for. We are ready to march forward with you. And just that example of those announcements. Now, just so you know, I had no idea of any of these announcements before coming into this myself, and I'm just amazed. The help that we have had at this point, I don't think our leadership ever sleeps. They never sleep. They're always coming up with something new. And you know, the beautiful part about ATS Business University is that you, the student, you control where we go with the curriculum. It's called an open source education, and it is the future of education. Make no mistake. This is what everything is going to, especially with, you know, with the pandemic and things that are happening in our world today. These things are being forced upon us, and we are fortunate to be in a position where we have leadership in folks like Deanna, in Antonio Smith, and Tempest, and just right down the list. We have folks that are on top of this, that are forward thinkers, that are doing the planning for us so that we can receive the reward for ourselves. So again, thank you so much, Deanna. I'm excited about the e-commerce. You know, group economics is a big thing with all of us. We all support each other, and we'll continue to do so. The next conference, the Mexic Conference, if you're trying to get out of the middle class, that's a place you're going to want to be. And then, gosh, dollar scholar courses. I can't even say it this morning. Dollar scholar courses. There is absolutely no excuse anymore to not educate yourself and get the information that you need. And in that line, I'd like to look forward here with someone that's been in my life a very, very long time. He'll probably slap me for saying that later, but Phil Sorrentino. Now, Phil Sorrentino is a communicator of action steps on attitude management, consultative selling, employee and customer loyalty, and business and financial results. Phil and his wife, Susan, co-founded Humor Consultants in 1981. The promise of Humor Consultants is to assist in the enjoyment of everything.
Yeah. Well, we think everything is a very good niche. If you're going to pick a niche, pick everything.
Pick everything. That's a big niche, isn't it? Everything is a good niche, Phil. You know, Humor Consultants helps organizations increase their bottom line, increase sales, and employee and customer loyalty. They do this by making work fun. A few of its clients are IBM, Wendy's, Nationwide Insurance, and the Ohio State University football team.
Go Bucks! OH!
IO! Phil and Susan are on the faculty here of the ATS Junior Business University, so you'll see a lot of them. Phil is past president of the Columbus Entrepreneurial Network and the Ohio chapter of the National Speakers Association. He was the dean of the Professional Speakers Academy for the Florida Speakers Association. Phil has earned the distinction of Certified Speaking Professional, one of approximately only 700 worldwide. Let's welcome Phil Sorrentino with his presentation, Work Smart, Have Fun, and Make Money, Being Strong During Challenging Times. Phil Sorrentino.
Thanks, Jerry. Everything's going good technology-wise?
We're good. We're good.
We got me up there?
Well, I think we do. Let me see. Where are you, Phil?
Looking just fine.
You looking good.
Okay. Work smart, have fun, and make money. Being strong during challenging times. How many like that concept? So what we're going to be covering today is how can you work smart, how can you have fun, and how can you make money and be strong? Now, I've just modeled, through my behavior, I've just shown you what your sense of humor is all about. And it's not telling jokes. Who thinks they're good at telling jokes? You know, there was a study done and they found that the 2% of the American population thinks they're good at telling jokes. The problem is the other 98% doesn't necessarily agree with them. But would you at least like a joke? All right. Have you heard about the talking dog? Guy's driving down the freeway. There must have been a wreck because he had to get off and go down some country roads. He sees this sign that says talking dog, $10. Well, curiosity gets the best of him. He walks up to the house and there's the guy sitting on the porch. And he's going, talking dog, $10? And the guy says, yeah, he's around back. So he walks around back. He sees this dog. He goes up to him. He goes, are you the talking dog? And the dog said, why, yes, I am. He goes, incredible. He goes, what's your story? He says, for years, I worked for the CIA and did many, many things. And then Homeland Security's got a hold of me, and we worked all the major airports, LaGuardia, O'Hare, LAX, Kennedy. And we stopped hundreds of terrorist attacks that the world would never know about. He goes, that's incredible. So he walks back over to the front of the house and goes, the guy says, that's an amazing dog. And the guy says, yeah. He goes, $10. And the guy looks up and says, yeah, he's never been outside the backyard. Now, the key there is don't be a talking dog. Don't be talking about things that you've never done. Now, I had a client, I told him that joke. He said, Phil, there's another lesson to that joke. I said, what's that? He says, if you have a talking dog, for God's sakes, let him outside the backyard. And that's what ATS is. We literally are a talking dog. We're something so unique, so original, something that people have never seen from before. And we got to let ATS get outside the backyard. So what I'm going to give to you today are concepts and ideas that you can use. And by the way, if I tell you anything new today, I apologize. My whole intent here today is to fertilize positive seeds you already have. I'm fertilizer. I'm barn carpeting. So everybody got your handouts. Let's flip the page and let's go to the one that says work smart, have fun, and make money at the top. And there's a blank right in the middle. I want you to write 2 words on that blank right here. And the 2 words, you ready? My, M-Y. Hey, I went to night school. I don't spell too good when it's daylight out. Choices, CHOICES. Because I'm going to challenge you when we get finished here. I'm going to ask you to make some choices. See, my value here as a presenter is your value as a parent. It's your value as anything else you do. It's what do your people feel, think, be, do, have, and give when you're not around, whether you're any good at what you do. Whether you implement what I cover in the next couple hours, whether you go out there and do anything with this information is a function of how good I am at delivering it to you. If you don't do anything with it, then I'm not very good. But if I touched you in a way that you said, wow, that makes sense, and it was so impactful that you went and implemented the ideas, then we're getting somewhere. Ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the people who put them into practice who are priceless. See, too many people want to get paid for what they know as opposed to getting paid for what they feel, think, be, do, have, and give for what they know. That's the key. So that's what this conference is all about. We're going to give you tons of ideas and tons of tools that you're going to be able to implement and make a difference in your life and make a difference in the people's lives in which you touch. So if you notice, the first thing I have there is feel. You should never say to yourself, and you never say to somebody else, you shouldn't feel that way. Your feelings, that's the thermometer of your soul. And denying your feelings is like putting a sticker over the gas gauge of your automobile and saying, I'm not going to pay any attention to that information, and see how far that gets you. So you always want to honor your feelings. But where are your feelings? Esther and Jerry Hicks has a thing called the emotional guidance scale. You can Google it and pick it up yourself. It's called the emotional guidance scale. And it's a 22-point scale to find out where you are. Now, I'll pick a number between 1 and 22. I'll pick worry. Worry is 14. 13 is doubt. And 15 is blame. So on the downward spiral, you can go from doubt to worry to blame. Where are you on the scale? And do you want to move up the spiral or down the spiral? How about on the other side of the coin? 4 is positive expectations and beliefs. Well, 3 is enthusiasm, and 4 is optimism. So you have positive expectation and beliefs. Do you want to move up to enthusiasm, or do you move down to optimism? It's your choice. Let me give you 22. Fear, grief, depression, powerlessness, and victim. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been there. I've lived a victim. I've been a victim, or thought of myself as a victim. But it was only my thinking myself as a victim that made me that. It was my choice. Now let me give you one. Joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation. And ladies and gentlemen, thank God I've been there too. So where are you on the scale? And then do you want to move up the spiral or down the spiral? It's your choice. And never say to somebody else you shouldn't feel that way, because you're denying them, because you're present. You need to be where you are. Then once you decide what you feel, then what do you think? If you look at the handouts, you go to that, think of it as a clock. What do you think about how you feel? Because that'll determine what you'll do in the next step. And the next step is be or belief. And a belief is a thought you just keep thinking. Or you're going to be, like Eckhart Tolle tells us, to talk about the power of now. We worry about the past, we worry about the future, and very rarely are we in the present. And all life is a series of presents. All life is one present after another. Then what do you do? Faith without works is dead. And then what do you have based on what you did? And then what do you give? We here at ATS Business University in Riqueza, we believe you cannot give yourself. The more you give, the more you get. So I'm going to challenge you when I get finished here that you go back to that page and fill in the back. Now, I'm not expecting you to fill in every blank as we go through this program, but I want you to start thinking in these terms. What are you going to feel, think, be, do, have, and give to work smart? What are you going to feel, think, be, do, have, and give to have fun? And what are you going to feel, think, be, do, have, and give to make money? And as you fill in those blanks, you'll create a structure. You'll create a plan that'll get you where you need to go. Now, let me share with you where we got our greatest definition for our sense of humor. And we got it from my son's kindergarten teacher. Chad was in kindergarten. And yes, I have a Chad. He's not a hanging Chad. He's not a dimpled Chad. He's not a ripped Chad. He's not a pregnant Chad. He's Baghdad Chad. He's done two tours of Iraq. He was a drill sergeant for 2 years. He was in charge of the SWAT team at Fort Knox. And as of December 1st, he got promoted to Master Sergeant. Only 1% of the people in the Army, the non-commissioned officers, get to Master Sergeant, and Chad got that on December 1st. So we're very much inspired by then. But Chad was in kindergarten, and they were talking about your 5 senses. So Chad raised his hand. He said, what about your 6th sense? The teacher said, your 6th sense? And Chad said, yeah, your ability to read other people's minds. In the parent-teacher conference, I went, yes! A tear formed in my eye. I turned to my wife and I said, he can't clean his room, but he's got this one right. And by the way, if you're not reading books, if you're not listening to things on YouTube, whoever is reading books, whoever is listening to things on YouTube is going to impact your life. The difference we are today, the difference will be 5 years from now, are basically 2 things. The books we read and the people you hang around. So ATS Business University in Riqueza, you get to hang around good people. Now it's your turn to write books. I think the greatest book is called the Bible. Pretty good book to read from time to time. But there's another great book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, written in 1936. And there was a chapter in this book written in 1936 called Your Sixth Sense. But she was a great teacher. She said, Chad, what about your seventh sense? And Chad said, your seventh sense? And she said, yeah, your sense of humor. So if we can agree that your sense of humor is your sense of perspective, then it's the combination, it's the distillation, it's result of all the information that you process through your other six senses. So literally, your sense of humor ends up being your attitude. And don't we see people with attitudes? To quote my great friend E. Larry Moles from Lima, Ohio, he says, I see people walking around looking like they were weaned on a pickle. You got these attitudes. Well, where do you get your attitudes? Well, psychiatrists tell us between birth and 13. And for many of us, that wasn't a pleasant experience. Bradshaw says 98% of the families out there are dysfunctional. I disagree 100%. Any perfect childhood here today? So it's never too late to change your perspective. It's never too late to change your attitude. It's never too late to take something in your life that was painful, that was hurtful, that was tragic, that was wrong, and look at it in a different way. Wayne Dyer tells us when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's your choice. Now, where did I get my perspective? Where did I get my sense of humor? Well, first of all, I didn't become Italian until I was 20 days old. I was adopted. That's when I became Italian. That's when I made my first sale. It was 20 days. It was all eye contact and body language. Although my dear Sicilian mother said she picked the one next to me and they gave her the wrong baby. Buyer's remorse. I get a call about 20 years ago. Is this Phil Sorrentino? Yes. Were you born on August 1st, 1951? Yes. We're with Reunite. We put adopted families together. You have a sister that wants to talk to you. Are you interested? I said, well, Cheers is starting. Can I call you back? I found out I'm one of 7 kids on my biological mother's side. I'm her third by the time she was 18 by 3 different guys. Mother. Well, now I know where I get my sex drive. I get my biological mom on the phone for the first time in my life. And I said, Mom, I've always teased I was conceived in the backseat of a Buick. She goes, I really don't remember what kind of car it was, but it was the back seat. My adopted sister died when I was 2. My adopted father died when I was 6, 3 days after Christmas. My adopted mother got into alcohol and suicide attempts when I was 9. So I have no abandonment issue, wink, wink. I'm ADD and dyslexic. So I got along with the nuns swimming. I had a nun in the 4th grade whack me in the back of the head with a music book. I turned around, she said, that's for everything I've never caught you doing. I turned around and said, well, you better hit me again. And she whacked me a second time. I started to work when I was 11. I cleaned toilets for 80 cents an hour when I was 14. And I was 5'1" when I graduated from high school. I went out for football, but they already had one. But the past is the past is the past. There comes a time in every one of our lives where we have to say to ourselves, I'm going to stop letting the past ruin my future and rob me of my present. Wherever you are in life, somebody's had it worse and made it, and somebody's had it better and blown it. So it's your choice. Happiness, it's your choice. Peace of mind, it's your choice. Being one of Antonio's 100,000 millionaires, it's your choice. So what kind of choices do you make? Now, it's tough to stay positive, isn't it? Isn't it? By the way, this is the audience participation part. Isn't it? You think someone like myself, who's been standing up in front of audiences since he was 22 years old, giving the message that happiness is your choice, you think I'd have gotten it by now, wouldn't you? I struggle every day. No, every day. And there's nobody on the planet that's heard this stuff as much as me. Because every time I give a speech, I got to listen to it. So I started doing some research. I started doing some studying. I started saying, there's got to be a reason why it's tough to stay positive. And I found out there is. It's called the reticular activating system. How many have ever heard of the reticular activating system? It's about the size of a $50. For those of you who know what a $50 is, I said that once to an audience and everybody looked blank, and I realized many of these people never even seen a $50. So, excuse me, it's about this big. It resides in the back of your skull, and it's part of your reptilian brain. It's the brain that makes you see things that are not will stand out. So I was doing some study, and I was saying it's part of this. So here's what happens. When you put a child on the kitchen floor, what does that child find? Dirt, cat food, Cheerios. The child will look at the pattern of the floor, and then the child's interest, the child's attention, the child's self-motivation goes towards what doesn't fit the pattern. Everybody, where you're sitting right now, I want you to look to the floors where you're sitting. Just look down and look at the floor. Oh, look, there's a spot, there's a spot, there's a spot. You can't help but look at what doesn't fit the pattern. Or how about this? You get a new car. You get a ding on your car. Oh. For the next 2 weeks, when you unlock that car, what do you look at? The ding. Can you stop yourself? No. If it's on the passenger, what do? You walk around. You'll call strangers out of the parking lot to ruminate with you over your ding. I just got this car 2 weeks ago. I think all new cars should come pre-dinged as a service from the dealer. Boom, get over it. Or how about this? You get an outfit and you looking good. Now you get a little spot on that outfit. I got a spot. Look at this. I got a spot. You'll hold it in the light so you can see it better. It's a spot. Some of you carry Tide sticks in your purse, so when you get a spot, you can get rid of it. It's called the reticular activating system. And when we were hunter-gatherers, a lot longer than we were farmers, our job was to look at the woods. If the woods would change, it could be food, or we could be food. So we have this instinct, we have this programming, we have our humanness that forces us to focus on what has changed, what is different, what do we need to survive. So if you're going to work smart, if you're going to have fun, if you're going to make money, you must force yourself on a regular basis to override your humanness and count your blessings. If you don't have your health, does anything else matter? If the people we love don't have their health, does anything else matter? If you've lost faith or hope, does anything matter? There's a French philosopher, we're not human beings that have spiritual experiences. He says we're spiritual beings, and we're just currently having a human experience. So one of your action steps, you must override your humanness and count your blessings. Now, how would you like some ideas on how to handle stress? How many of you have stress? What, the rest of you are just carriers? I don't have stress, I give it. Well, I promise if you do these ideas, your brain will produce endorphins. Now, some people are very confused. They think endorphins are people without parents who have to stay inside. But if you do these ideas, you'll create these endorphins, okay? So first one, I want everybody to grab an imaginary lemon. Come on, play with me. Grab an imaginary lemon. Okay, grab an imaginary knife and cut your imaginary lemon in half. Feel the juice running down your arm. I want you to open up the lemon. I want you to see the wedges you just created with the cut of knife. Little seeds. Plop those seeds out. We're not going to need those seeds. Now I want you to take that lemon, put that lemon up to your nose, and I want you to smell lemon. Think pledge, if that's helpful for any of you here today. Can you smell your lemons? Come on, use your imagination, smell your lemons. Now I want you to bite your lemon. Bite that lemon out. Switch that juice around your mouth. Put that lemon down. How many of you winced when you bought your imaginary lemon? How many of you salivated when you bought your imaginary lemon? Think about this. I literally just affected your body with my words. And my words weren't even true, were they? None of you thought you had a lemon, did you? That would be called psychosis, seeing things that's not really there. So one idea that I want you to take away from this is watch your words. Always put out words that add value to people's lives. Even if they're not true, yeah, we call it encouragement. Telling people they can do things even though you can, no, they can't. And never, and this is important, put out words that take away value from people's lives, especially if they are true. John did not start off by accident, and the word is made flesh and dwelt amongst us. You got to watch your words. They affect yourself and everybody else. Now, the other side of that coin, we can do something with our body to affect our attitudes. Now, this is something we can do when you're stuck in a traffic jam, if we're at a restaurant not getting the customer service we think we deserve. If our kids are driving us nuts, we do what I'm going to share with you right now. It'll definitely give you a positive attitude. So every one of you, I want you to, it's called the howl for joy. And as I look among this audience today, there's some of you that you ain't howled in a while. You're about due. So I promise if you do this exercise, you'll catch a buzz. You'll get a little high. It's a safe high. We'll all be able to pee in a cup afterwards. Okay, everybody ready? Now I will do one first to model the behavior, then I'll ask you to do one. Okay, everybody ready? You ready? Take a deep breath. No, I will do one first. Thank you for being along, but let me do one first. Then you let it go. Then I want you to take a second deep breath, and I want you to think of something that brings you happiness, joy, and fulfillment. I want you to think of something that makes you feel good. Now, if you can't think of something that makes you good, there's a book called 14,000 Things to Be Happy About. 14,000 Things to Be Happy About. I'll tell you, take your second deep breath, and I want you to go 1, 2, 3, and I want you to go, ow, 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 ow. Excuse me. Got it? Everybody ready? Okay, take your first deep breath. Let it go. Second deep breath. Something that makes you happy, makes you feel good. 1, 2, 3. Ow! Cool. How do you feel? Great. Would you like another hit? All right, one more hit. Now, for those who didn't do this, for those who are worried about what other people think, oh, I'll be embarrassed to death. So you don't try anything new. You don't try anything different. You don't step out the bike because you're so worried about what other people think. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Most people don't think about you as much as you think about you. Or you may say, oh, that's silly to do that. That's silly. You'll love this. Chad was in the 4th or 5th grade and I'm on the phone rings. Mr. Sorrentino. Yes. Are you aware that your son Chad is acting silly in class? I said, are you aware that silly is a derivative of an old English word, selig, which means sage? And literally under her breath, and excuse my language, but this is what she said under her breath. She didn't think I could hear her. She said, now I know where he gets this shit. Then she said to me, she said, I'm not going to get anywhere with you, am I? No, I'm not. She said, can I talk to your wife? I said, yes, you can. So I handed the phone over to my wife. So being silly is acting as a sage, is being wise. The court jester was one of the wisest people in the castle because he could this take when things aren't going well, he could get them back to the positive. So if you're being silly, you're acting as the sage. So make sure that you do the howl for joy. Here's something else you can do to have less stress. Ready? Drink more water. 80% of you are dehydrated. 80% of you do not drink enough water. See, stress is interesting. If I put a gun on you and say, I'm going to kill you, or I say, dummy, what'd you do that for? Your brain does not know the difference between a physical threat and an emotional threat, and you have fight or flight. Your spleen constricts and loads your bloodstream with carbohydrates. So whenever you threaten, you want to fight or flight. Well, when somebody threatens you emotionally, it's inappropriate to whoop on them. That's not acceptable behavior. So by drinking more water, you flush them out of the system. Also remember that water is the great cleanse. Not only does it clean the outsides of our body, it cleans the insides of our body. Please remember this. Preservatives make the food so the germs won't eat it. Yes, we can put this food on this shelf for months and no germ will touch it, but go ahead, put it into your body. In joining the ATS Business Universities, we talk a lot about health. Thanks to Law and Susan and many of you out there and Carol, we talk a lot about health. So not only are we going to help you with your wealth, but by being involved in an organization, we're going to help you with your health. All right? So you got to be healthy. Now, another way to ruin your stress, how many have heard of Leo Biscaglia? How many have heard of that guy? This cat, we could pay $25,000 for a 1-hour speech, and then he would hug everybody. Trust me. First person pays me 25 grand for an hour. We be hugging naked. For 25 grand, you get me high. Susan doesn't like it when I say that, but for 25 grand, I think we could work this out. So Leo says, whenever under stress, grab something to hug it. Now, if there's a person asks permission, my wife is a too petite. She doesn't like hugging very much because she says all she really gets to do is smell armpits. So duck when you're hugging people, duck and hug them like that. So Leo says, whenever under stress, grab something to hug it and then count to 10 backwards. It's kind of like a mini timeout. So you go 10, 9, 8, 877-656-54321. That should make you feel better. Now, if it doesn't, rip its head off. Rip the leg off. That makes you feel good. I did that program once. A woman came up to me and said, Mr. Sorrentino, do you have any of those bears with genitals? I went, ugh. Tell me she didn't have issues. The point is you have to vent. My wife and I went to some counseling because we needed it. And the counselor says, I don't know about venting and catharting. People come here, they vent and they cathart. He goes, how much good that does? I said, are you nuts? He goes, no, we actually think you are. That's why you're here. No, you've got to vent. But you got to vent in the right way, at the right time, with the right people, in the right place. And the psychologist says, boy, that's good. I said, well, then can I charge you for this session? Venting is a critically important thing to deal with stress, but make sure you vent in the right way, at the right time, with the right people, in the right place. All right, let's go to the handouts. Page no says action steps. Again, we're going to beat this drum like crazy because, again, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the people who put them into practice who are priceless. So we're going to keep talking to you during these next 2 days. What are you going to implement? What are you going to change? What are you going to do different? What are you going to do more of? You might be doing what you're supposed to be doing. You just have to increase the numbers of doing it. So that's the real key. So my value as a profit and enjoyment coach is the same as my value as a parent. It's your value as whatever you do for your organization. What my audience and children, the people we work with, do when we're not around defines how valuable we are in the strength of our relationship. Now, this is a quote I want us to really get. Jack Welch, the CEO of General Electric. During uncertain times, and is there any doubt that these aren't uncertain times? These are some of the most uncertain times I've lived in my 69 and 1/3 trips around the sun. During uncertain times, we weed out the weak players and the strong ones widen the gap. So what we're going to do at ATS Business University in Ricasa and help you get strong. Be strong mentally, be strong spiritually, be strong financially, be strong with your relationships. The whole key is how do we help you get stronger? Listen to this. Our core competency is we make great people. And then here's the other one. Our greatest asset is our desire to learn from each other. Ladies and gentlemen, if Antonio and Tempest and Deanna and Grace and Monica, if that isn't their theme, how do we learn from each other? We've got calls every morning at 9 o'clock that we learn from each other. We've got other calls during the day that we learn from each other. The whole concept that we've got here, shared economics, we're learning from each other. We're sharing our resources with each other. We're making this pie bigger so each of our pie is bigger. So that's the key. There I got override your reticular activating system. We got watch your words. Always use words that add value to people's lives, even if they're not true. Never use words that take away values from people's lives, especially if they are true. We did the how for joy, drink more water, and hang out with people that are different. I'm a type A right brainer. I love type B left brainers. My wife is her maiden name is Bolt. So she's the bolt and I'm the nut. So what's no good without a bolt? Somebody said screw out there. No. Yeah, bolt's no good without a nut and nut's no good without a bolt. So when you see somebody who's different than you, don't use that difference as a reason to stay away from them. Ooh, that person's different. I'm going to stay away from them because they're different. I'm going to challenge you. When you see somebody that's different than you, you use that difference as a reason to get to know them and say, man, that person is different than me. I should probably get to know them because I might learn something from them. And because I'm different from them, they might learn something from me. So one of your action steps might be hang out with people that are different. Flip the page. Living longer and happier. Harvard Medical School did a study on why people live a long time and came up with 4 common denominators why people live a long time. And I believe these are the same common denominators why organizations last a long time. I believe these are the same common denominators why teams stay together a long time. I believe these are the same common denominators why we have relationships. And the first one is your sense of humor. First, acknowledge where you are now, and denying your current position won't allow you to contribute. Walk a moon in their moccasins. Do you know a moon is 28 days? Some of us don't take 28 seconds to put ourselves in other people's perspectives. Bobby Brownfield told me when I was 22 years old, everybody's got a different way of counting. Do you take the time to find out what other people, where they're coming from, what their perspective is? As you bring people into the ATS Business University, are you doing much talking or are you doing more listening? because you got to find out where they are and see where all the plethora of the stuff. We got more things to help people with than you can imagine. If you're this lifetime, or if you're a Shirley MacLaine or in any other lifetime, we need to sit down and diagnose where each individual is and apply what we have. I talked to Shrenda last night, and she did the standout assessment, but I told her to look at Think and Grow Rich, look at Overcome Self-Esteem, look at the Subconscious Mind. All those are in the freshman level. Those are there for you to access to help you work on yourself. Next, have an altruistic attitude, the concept of unconditional love. See, I believe the same spirit that's in you is the same spirit that's in me. What I do to you, I do to me. I love you no matter what. It's your behavior is why you're going to sit in the corner for a week and a half. How many know about timeouts? Don't you know about timeouts? I love timeouts. Although when I was a kid, they didn't have timeouts. What they whack you. Now we have a timeout. They make the child sit in the most boring room in the house for as many minutes as they are old. So if they're there 5 minutes, they're there for 5 minutes. If they're 10 years old, they're there for 10 minutes. I will tell you something, that 69 minutes is a very long time to have to sit someplace. But the concept of unconditional, I love you no matter what. It's your behavior I don't understand. And listen, I've been involved in this organization for 3 years. By the way, which is kind of unique, I've been speaking since I was 22, and I'm 69 in the third trips around the sun now. And this is the most, I don't even know how to say this, experience I've had in working with a client. I've never worked with a client for 3 years and then given a presentation to that organization. So this is a real gift for me to take what I've learned all these years and apply it specifically to this organization as we go through this. It's absolutely amazing that I get to do this. It's quite a gift. So I want to thank Antonio and Tempest and Deanna and Monica and everybody else who's been involved in this organization, and Susan, and I don't, Law. It's just been a great experience. I want to thank each and every one of you to allow me to share what I'm doing. Next is a sense of community. And a sense of community is a group of people that you can say out loud, I've screwed up, I'm hurting, and I need help. We've all heard if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, I like to say if it's working, it's probably obsolete. Here's one for you. The greater the sea of knowledge, the wider the shore of the unknown. The more you know you don't know. I know a lot less at now 69 and a third than I did at 59 and a third. And I know I'm going to know a lot less at 79 and a third than I do today at 69 and a third. So you're always learning, you always learn, and you always, I'm reading a great book. I'm always reading a book. I keep books near me when I'm working the phones or when I'm on, I can read when I'm on hold. Again. And then the last one is regular exercise, which Susan's going to kill me on this one because I'm not doing this very well. You got to do some regular exercise. Check this out. An aerobic workout 3 times a week for 20 minutes to get your heart to a targeted rate. 3 times a week. That's all you got to do. You got to do it. There's no 41% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies exercise every day. 41% of CEOs of Fortune 100 exercise every day. So the benefits of exercise: you're more creative, you'll make fewer mistakes, you'll have less stress, you'll sleep better, so you sleep less. Barriers: you say time. Well, that's not a barrier. We've learned that the more you exercise, you'll sleep better, so you'll sleep less. So actually, exercising will create times. You'll be more committed, commitment of exercising, momentum, and lack of resort. So one of the things you might want to say to work smart under your do is regular exercise. I challenge every one of you to get in the habit of regular exercise. We're in this game for the long haul. Antonio teaches us some people are in the short game gains, but you get wealthy thinking of the long-term gains. And that's where we're involved in here, is the long-term gains. So everybody on this call and everybody that we bring into, we need to encourage them to do some regular exercise. Now, here's something to help you have less stress. I have a friend of mine, Charlie Digert. He tells people, he starts off in his audiences, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to realize that 25% of the people out there don't like you and never will. Now, for some of you, that's good news. Really, only 25%? For the rest of us who think you're so wonderful that everyone should like us, forget it. You're going to rob them of a husband they just divorced, a daughter that doesn't call, or someone who kicked over your bike in the 6th grade. So remember, 1 out of 4 people you meet, they don't like you. They're never going to like you, no matter what you say, no matter what you do. Write them off. Well, when I'm doing a live audience, I have my audience. Everybody, I want you to look to the person to your right, then look to the person to your left, look behind you, pick someone behind you, pick someone in front of you, pick me if you like, and I want you to write one of them off. I say, no, they don't need to know, you need to know. 1 out of 4 people don't like you, never going to. So when you're making calls, when you're exposing people to the university, when you're exposing people to Ricasa, realize that 1 out of 4 people aren't going to do this anyway. So when somebody says, no, I'm not interested, say, oh, good, you're my 1 of 4, I can keep going and I can get to my other 2 or 3 that will join. All no, you can hear NO, which is a no of denial, or you can hear KNOW, which is no of encouragement, which is a no of understanding. Maybe you just don't know something about what's going on there. Don't take it personal. Just make another call and keep going. Here's another way to have less stress. This next idea, I'm going to help every one of you have less stress. And if you do this, I promise you'll have less stress. Everybody ready? For the rest of your life, I want you to expect people to drive slow in the fast lane. So from now on, this is how you do it. Oh, look, dear, there they are. We were expecting them to be there. So what do? You pull off the right as you wave them, you wave, you throw them a kiss, you get back in the left lane and get on down the road. As opposed to how we currently do this. Look at that idiot, beep, 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 flash, 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 jerk. Like they can hear you through the windshield. Then you pull off to the right. As you pass them, what do? You give them a fist. Some of you add a digit. And then what do? You get back in the left lane and what? Slow down. My point is, was it the person driving slow in the fast lane that caused you your stress? No. It was your reaction to the person driving slow in the fast lane that caused you your stress. Lower your expectations and you'll lower your stress. Now, keep your standards high. Don't lower your standards. And by the way, if we have anybody on this call who does drive slow in the fast lane, get out of it. You're not supposed to be there. But for the rest of us, they're always going to be there. So from now on, expect people to drive slow in the fast lane and you'll have less stress. Okay, flip the page. Peak performance humor. I don't believe in career and life balance. Everybody says, damn, career and life balance. Well, that's a bunch of hooey. There's no such thing as career and life balance. And when something's in balance, what do you have? Nothing. I believe it's a belief and or commitment in these areas. So what we want you to do is understand if you're not operating on peak performance, what has been knocked out of alignment? So instead of talking about balance, talk about alignment. Are you aligned in what you need to do? Because when you're in line, you can get there quicker, get there faster, and get there with less stress and less friction. If you're not in alignment, then you have some problems. So I always like to do an analysis with my people and with myself. What is our level of belief and commitment with ourselves? You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're all yo-yos. Just some of us have longer strings than others. The key to life is shorten your string. So your ups aren't so up and your downs aren't so down. So is our belief and commitment in ourselves out of alignment? If it is, go to the Freshman University and look at the thing on overcoming low self-esteem. See, self-esteem is what you think of yourself. Self-image is what you think other people think of you. And too many people are living our lives worried about other people think of us. That's self-image. Self-esteem is what you think of yourself. And as I said earlier, most people don't think about you as much as you think they think about you. Next, our families. Did that knock us out of alignment? You know, we moved from Columbus, Ohio 7 years ago down to South Florida to take care of Susan's mother because it is one of the 10, honor thy father and thy mother. And there's a lot of people on this call, they're taking care of their elderly parents. I think of Dr. Sugar, and many of you are. And that's an amazing commitment. But did that knock us out of alignment about what we were trying to do? Of course it did. So we have to ask, is our belief and commitment high, average, or low? Is something that our clients, somebody you brought into Ricasa, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're blaming you and not blaming themselves. That could knock you out of alignment. Or services. You know, Antonio and Tempest and Deanna and Grace are always adding more to us. And it's kind of like sometimes sipping out of a fire hose. So you need to step back and say, okay, let me get this thing in perspective. Our team, you know, sometimes something with our team may knock us out of alignment. Our company or our industry. You know, selling is a great industry. A lot of you, and one of our things, we want our worst salesman to be one of our top producers. And I understand why Antonio has that in there, because he's trying to overcome the negative stigma that salesmen have, which is huge. But here's my idea of selling: communicating in a way to produce a mutually agreed upon response that's best for all parties. That's what I think great salesmen do. They communicate in a way that's their style, that produces a mutually agreed upon response that's best for all parties. So that's how I define selling. And when you define it like that we're all trying to do that. We're all salespeople, whether we want to admit it or not. Next, talent, attitude, skills, knowledge, and style. We've all heard attitude is everything. That's a bunch of hooey. Attitude isn't everything. You can have the greatest attitude in the world, but if you don't have the skills and the knowledge, you're not going to make it happen. If I tell you you can climb the highest mountain, you can swim the deepest ocean, but you don't have the skills for it, or you don't have the knowledge, or you don't have the talent, or your style isn't correct, you can have the greatest attitude in the world, but what's going to happen? You'll die is what will happen. So I like the word tasks. Think of tasks. First of all, do you have a talent? Where are your talents? And that's where you can get on Marcus Buckingham's website. Go to marcusbuckingham.com, and immediately comes up, you take this assessment that determines your strengths, and then based on your strengths, it says, here's what role you need to be in to leverage your strengths, and it's free. It's whenever we do our coaching, that's one of the tools we use. So if anybody does that and they do it, and I want to, I'll offer to go over it with you. I've gone over hundreds of these with people. So because I've been experienced with this document, I see things people don't. It's like a doctor looking at his chart. You can't read his chart and understand what he's saying, no matter how much because he's got the experience of it. So if you want to do this assessment and then get back in touch with me, I'll go over it with you just to help you. And then if we need to go another step, we can. If that was just good enough, that's kind too. So that's what talents do you have. Then your attitude. So attitude is important. Don't get me wrong. You got to work at it all the time, every day. Then your skills. Do you have communication skills? Do you have problem-solving skills? Do you have listening skills? We're going to talk about that later. Do you know how to create leaders? One of the ways to be successful in the ATS Business University in Ricasa is not only are we looking for participants, we're looking for people that are leaders that can replace ourselves. You know, if we can find leaders, we can find somebody that's better than us out there that has a network, and we can help plug them, and we can help them, and they can help us. So really, we need to be looking for leaders as we're out there finding. And then knowledge. Are you on the calls? That's how you get your knowledge. Are you on the calls? Because this organization is a giving organization. And then what style? Do you know what your style is? Everybody has a different style. And are you true to your style? You know, when I think of the people that I see here in front of me, everybody's different. You need to honor your differences. Then ask yourself, we all have blind spots, ladies and gentlemen. They all have things we don't see. So ask yourself, what action steps could we take to increase our belief in ourselves, our family? Ask somebody else. That's what this team's all about. You don't have to go it alone. You can do it that way. By the way, if anybody has any questions, or they want me to clarify something, or they want to add something from their perspective, please, you feel free. I should have given you permission. Well, I'm shoulding on myself. That's another thing. Don't should on yourself, because you can't should it on any, unless you have a time machine. Now, if you have a time machine, you can should on yourself. But unless you have a time machine, you can't should on yourself. So don't tell yourself you should have done this, because you can't should have done it. So you're asking yourself to do something that's impossible. But if anybody wants to comment on what we're doing, break in. If anybody wants to ask a question, break in. Because this is, again, what Jerry told us earlier. And by the way, Jerry, you were nailing it. I can't tell you how much in my heart I'm feeling on how good you're doing. Jerry, let me tell you Jerry and I's story. It was 40 years ago. I'm doing a free speech at Troy High School. Did you notice that free speech? That might be some insight to some of you. And this girl comes up to me and she says, wow. She says, you remind me of my fiance. I said, really? She said, yeah, you remind me a lot of him. I said, well, tell me about him. Well, his name's Jerry Potter. He works at the Chevy dealership now. I said, gosh, I'd love to meet him. So I go to this Chevy dealership. I ask this guy, says, is Jerry Potter here? And they say, yeah, that's him over there. So I walk up to him. I said, Jerry, my name is Phil Sorrentino, and I just met your fiance, and she said I should meet you. And Jerry said, fiance? He goes, I don't have a fiance. So we became best buddies at that point, because I gave him a bit of information that was very valuable to him in his life at that point, and we just became best friends for 40 years. So the fact that he's involved with us and he's doing so well and he's nailing it today as an MC, I'm inspired by it.
I am indebted to you the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, same back at you. You've been very good to me too, brother. So Ask ourselves and other what action steps we can take to increase our belief in ourselves. Okay, flip the page. Self-motivation, what's in it for me? I believe the only motivation is self-motivation. I got 5 kids and 6 grandkids, and I can't motivate any of them. But I can create an environment. I can create consequences for behavior. If you behave like this, this will happen to you. If you behave like this, this will happen to you. So I never say motivation without self-motivation, because any motivation is self-motivation. So it's self-motivation servants are enthusiastic people. They create energy by helping others, and they know that example is the only motivation. So number 1, develop a positive mental attitude. Cultivate the habit of looking for the positive in every person, every event, and in yourself. The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the qualities of the questions you ask yourself. If you want a better life, learn to ask yourself better questions. And I'll use me as an example. You may say to yourself, why can't I get along better with Phil? And your brain will give you that answer. Your brain will say, well, Phil's a jerk. He's loud. And he did something to me 6 months ago, and I'm never going to forgive him. Change your questions. What can I do to get along better with Phil? See, realize he's a jerk. Expect that he's loud and forgive him accept that he's loud and forgive him. You change your life by simply changing the questions you ask yourself. If you want a better life, you simply need to learn yourself better questions. That's out of your subconscious mind. Here's a good book. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. It's a book that tells you how to program your subconscious mind. And that's the mind that makes your heart beat without you having to go heartbeat, heartbeat, heartbeat. That's the gland that makes your glands work without having to go glands, secrete. It's the most powerful tool we have, but it's a tool we got no training for. And you program your subconscious mind by your own self-talk. And you may say, I don't have any self-talk. No, that's your self-talk who just told you you didn't have any self-talk. We all have self-talk. So you want to improve your life and improve your self-talk. Number 2, associate with positive people. Do you ever notice that people like to complain, like to hang out with people like to complain? They go to lunch together. I heard something the other day that whining is anger trying to get through a very small opening. That's what we have here at the ATS Business University in Riqueza. We get together every day at 9 o'clock. Every day. That's Central Standard Time. 8 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time. 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. So just being around each other, looking forward to it. We don't have 24 hours without having another positive experience. And Antonio says that he's asking for Susan and I to create another class, and I didn't mention this to him, so I just mentioned now. I'm thinking about let's do it on a Saturday. We've got nothing on a Saturday right now. The day's all complete. We could do something on a Saturday, and that's when we do our time. Just plant the seed. Now, number 2, practice daily puts of positive thoughts. Every day you cleanse and nourish your body, don't you? Don't you? And you hope somebody next to you does. Every day you should nourish your mind. And every day you should cleanse and nourish your spirit. Because if you don't cleanse and nourish your mind every day, your mind will become offensive. If you don't cleanse and nourish your spirit every day, your spirit will become offensive. If you don't cleanse and nourish your body every day, your body will become offensive. So I call it your self-improvement program, because the thing called spiritual puke, excuse me, but I'm going to be graphic to make a point. And it's the same thing as physical puke. If I go up to and puke on you because I don't feel good, I feel better now. Don't you feel good after you puke? So I just puked on you. Now I feel better because I just puked on you. Oh boy, that felt good. Well, what about me? It's hanging from me. It's starting to smell. So what do? You got to puke on somebody else. And pretty soon you got what Zig Ziglar says, you got stinking thinking, you need a checkup from the neck up. Turn off the news. The news is puke. Get out of it. You got to get that vibration of success and happiness and fulfillment and service and love and forgiveness and gratitude. When you have that vibration, then that's what comes into your life. If you have the other vibration, then that's what comes into your life. You're responsible for the vibration you create. So I call it your self-improvement process, which I'm starting to give me 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes. 5 minutes for each letter. S stands for salesperson. Everybody's a salesman, whether they want to admit it or not. And I told you earlier, and we used to say salesmen, they would talk. The great salespeople are asking questions and listeners. They're not talkers. They listen before they see prescription without examination and diagnosis is malpractice. So great salespeople ask questions and listen. They don't talk. My gift to gab has hurt me as a salesperson. It's helped me as a professional speaker, but it's hurt me as a salesperson. I had people all my life say, Sorrentino, the steam that blows the whistle doesn't make the engine run. Or it's better to be silent and thought ignorant than to speak and remove all doubts. Or I had a hermit tell me this, and there's still hermits in this world, but they're just hard to find. He said, Phil, you need to appreciate the silence between the words. Aha. I need somebody. Aha. You need to appreciate the silence between the words. So learn to be a better communicator. Learn to be a better salesperson. So the S stands for sales. The greatest sales book in the world is called The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. It's this thin. It was pictured in the time of Christ. And the head of a camel caravan recognized some talent in this young boy, and he went to the young boy and said, son, I'm going to give you 10 scrolls. I want you to read each scroll 3 times a day for 30 days before you go to the next scroll. The young man did this, became the greatest salesman in the world at that time, and then passed the scrolls on to somebody that we're kind of familiar with. Well, one of the scrolls is, I will greet this day with love in my heart, for love is the most powerful of all things. Muscles can split a shield and destroy life, but the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men as the sun softens the cold as clay. I will love the sun, for it warms my bones. I will love the rain, for it cleanses my spirit. I will love the rich, for they are so few, but I will love the poor, for they are so many. I will greet my enemies with love, and they'll become my friends. I will greet my friends with love, and they'll become my brothers. I will greet this day with love in my heart. That's part of one of the scrolls in The Greatest Salesman in the World. So learn to be a better salesperson. Learn to be a better communicator. Take 5 minutes a day to commit yourself to that. I as inspiration. Get something that inspires you. Get something that gets you excited. Get something that makes you feel good. You know, we like to watch TV. Joyce Myers, she talks about trust God and do it. Just the other day, I came up with this. This is something that just is new, so I'm going to share this with you. Joyce Myers says, trust God and do good. And then I said, well, what would be the next level? And I came up with know God and be your best. And then I said, what's the next level? Love God and have peace. Isn't that cool? So trust God and do good, know God and be your best, and love God and have peace. So what inspires you? And then the P is your product or your profession. Are you getting on ATS? Are you looking at our courses? Are you taking the courses? Do you understand what we've got to offer? We've got so much to offer, it's even hard to understand. But every day, I would challenge everybody on this call that every day take one course. Just take one course from the choices we have. Look at the courses, see which one that you'd like to do and take it. If you do one a day, just think at the end of the year, you've gone through 365 of our courses. So are you a student of what you do? Next, keep your long-range lifeline in focus and persistently pursue them. I challenge people to turn your deadlines into lifelines. You need lifelines. You don't need deadlines. And I believe incremental steps. Like I'd worked last night with Shasha. I think that was her name, who's the lady that just joined us, who's the beautician that's working in the salon. And we broke it down to how much she wanted to make a month. But then we broke it down, and I first said to her, and I was wrong in doing this. I say she wanted to generate $8,000 a month, and I said, I want you to call me when you get that $8,000. And then as we continued the conversation, I said, no, let's do this. Your goal is $400 a day. That's 4 people sitting in your chairs that you have your average ticket to be $100. So your goal is to get every average ticket up to $100 and just have 4 a day. So I said, that's when I want you to call me. I want you to call me when you have your first $400 day. See, I believe goal setting, you should set your goals a little bit higher than where you are so that you can feel successful getting to them. Then set a little bit higher, then set a little bit higher. Now, I believe you need to have big, hairy, audacious goals. That's out of good to great. And that's what Antonio gives us. 100,000 millionaires. Can you imagine the party we're going to have? We're going to have OSU Stadium, which sits 100,000 people. We're going to come to Columbus, Ohio. We're going to rent out the stadium. We're going to have 100,000 millionaires in that stadium that we've created thanks to everything that you people have done. So that, number 2, the least salesperson to be one of the best income producers. Number 3, end world hunger. And number 4, solve the student debt crisis. I mean, that's not one big, hairy, audacious goal. That's 4 big, hairy, audacious goals. So you need to have those, but I also believe you need to have your goals incremental. So you feel good about it. So it's not so much out there that you just frustrate yourself. Matter of fact, I need to share the Og Mandino, who wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World, became a friend of mine. Here's a tip for all of you. Check the newspaper, check your business journals, and find out what speakers or what consultants or what people are coming to town. Like, for instance, I called the Ohio Bankers Association. Now, they knew me, so that helps. There's another tip. Get out there and get known in the community. I called the Ohio Bankers Association. I said, I noticed Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and his wife, Ruth, are going to be on the program coming up. They said, well, yeah. I said, who do you have picking them up at the airport? They went, well, nobody. I said, would you mind if I did that? They said, you would do that? I said, sure. So I got to pick up Norman Vincent Peale and his wife, Ruth, at the airport and spend 2 days with them, chauffeuring them around Columbus, Ohio as they were giving the speech. You'll love this story. When I got back, I came back home and I went to Susan. I said, Susan, you know, I just spent a lot of time with Dr. Peale and his wife, Ruth, and I just wanted to mention something to you that I noticed something and I thought you might be interested in. She said, what's that? I said, as Dr. Peale spoke, I watched Mrs. Peale. And I just want to mention to you that she laughed at every joke like she heard it for the first time. She reacted to every story like, wow, that was a great story. And I just thought I'd mention that to you. She looks up and he says, well, you're no Dr. Peale either. So I said, okay, fair enough. No problem with that. So check your local community, check who's coming to town, check your business journal, and then be known well enough that you can call up that organization. Hey, by the way, I've had Paul Harvey, Art Linkletter, Wayne Dyer. I had Bruce Jenner when he was still a guy. These are tips that you can use to position yourself with successful people that cost you nothing. It just costs a little creativity. So that's how you do it. Here's another one. Always know what you're going to do next. What nation has the greatest population, the lowest gross national product, and the highest crime rate? What nation has the greatest population, the lowest gross national product, and the highest crime rate? You ready? Procrastination. I'd kill me. So we suggest you put off procrastination. It's a thief. It's the greatest population. Produces nothing, and it's the lowest. It has the highest population. The people that are in ATS universities and Regeza that learns to put off procrastination are going to be part of those 100,000 millionaires. And next, put real life in your life. Look for the real satisfaction. Be out the best. Be united, or be more self-reliant. And Jerry mentioned it earlier. Worrying is meditating for negative results. I'll ask my audience, how do you meditate? Very few people raise their hand. I asked, how many of you worry? Everybody raises their hand. I said, you people that say you worry but don't meditate, were you bitten by a hippie? Because worrying is meditating for negative results. I want you to worry. Next time I want you to worry as if everything would turn out right. Ooh, then what would we do? Worry as if everything would turn out right. Then what would we do? How to get others to help themselves. Know the people you would help. By the way, has anybody got anything they'd like to share or I'm going to take a drink of water, and I'd like to hear some feedback from the audience. I'd like to hear something right now. What are you getting? What's striking with you? Slow down. Oh, my wife just told me to slow down. Appreciate the silence between the words.
Between the words, that's right.
Thank you. Thank you, dear. Yes,
hey,
dear.
Phil, we did have a couple of questions. I don't know if you wanted to approach.
Yeah, now'd be a great time. Take a little break.
After your drink of water there.
I love the questions because that's like improv for me. You know, pretty much I know what I'm going to say. I've already heard it before, but the questions make me say things that I've never heard before.
Cool.
So
I've got my pen and pad ready. So one of our attendees asked Phil, why humor is considered a bit tricky and it's not everyone's cup of tea. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd say it's because they haven't defined what humor is. You know, ask somebody what is humor, they can't define it. That's why we've made it very simple. Humor is your perspective. So do you have a loving humor or do you have a hateful humor? Do you have an encouraging humor or do you have a discouraging humor? Do you have a forgiving humor? Do you have a revengeful humor? You choose the humor you bring to the world. When you look up humor in the dictionary, one of the definitions, it's the life-giving fluids of the body. Aqueous humor, vitreous humor, bile is described as a humor. So humor is something that could be life-giving. what are you doing? So that's why when you finally take acceptance, and that's what everything, take responsibility for where you are in your life. Don't be a victim. If you're a victim, you can't do anything about it because you're giving up your power to somebody else. But if you take responsibility for your humor and realize, I'm going to come to the world with a forgiving humor. I'm going to come to the world with a gracious humor. I'm going to come to the world with a gratitude humor. Do you realize we live better than 95% of the kings that have ever lived on this planet? Access to food, access to conversation, access to food, access to education, access to sanitation. If we put 95% of the kings that have ever lived on this planet into your life, we literally would improve the quality of their life. So how can you not be grateful? No matter where you are in life, you need to be grateful. That's what gets you on the path to coming to understand your humor. So we all have a humor. The question is, what kind of humor are we bringing to the world? That's kind of how we've framed humor over these last few years. It just depends on what's your definition of humor. Then you can decide whether that's you or not. So if we choose to define humor as your perspective, then you just need to say, okay, what's my perspective? And do I need to go up the emotional guidance scale with that? Or am I going down the emotional guidance scale and I have to do something different to have me go in an upward spiral? But that's a great question. I really appreciate it. What else we got?
Yeah, awesome question. I've got one more right now from Dr. Sugar.
Okay.
Sugar asked.
She's amazing, by the way.
Oh, she's incredible. Yeah. She's a mentor of mine, actually.
Me too.
So Doctor asks, Phil, how do you determine how to monetize your speaking engagements?
Well, first of all, what kind of heart are you coming to? How I got into speaking. I spoke to high school students for free for 6 years. Between the 22 to 28, I went to high schools and spoke for free. I had my own investment company at the time that we were making markets and bank stocks all over the state of Ohio, which was a husband and wife conversation in the evening and I started by doing negative selling. By the way, here might be a tip. I told them all the reasons why they shouldn't buy stock in their local bank. That's how I started the conversation. Here's why you shouldn't do this. It qualified them and created an atmosphere of trust. But that was a husband and wife kitchen table conversation in the evening. So I wasn't doing anything during the day. I wasn't playing golf at the time, or else I had to play golf every day. So who knows what I'd be doing if I was playing golf at the time. So I said, because I had the life I went in, just like Antonio, just like all of you, why you are where you are today is because what you've been through. Antonio being homeless in a trash can is why he is who he is today. Joyce Myers is being sexually abused by her dad is why she is where she is today. So that's part of what got you there. So I noticed going to school, by the way, I graduated from high school with a 1.3 at CUNY. I only needed a 1 point to get out. So I overachieved by 0.3 percentage points. Thank God for choir. It was funny. My counselor called me into his office, and literally, this is 1,000% true story. I sat down and he looked at me and said, Sorrentino, you're effed up. And he used the F word. I said, excuse me? He goes, look at these ACT scores and SAT scores. You could have been one of the smartest people we ever graduated from this high school. I said, how do you know I'm not? And he went, get out. And he just kicked me out of the office at that point. You'll love this. My senior English grade was BF, BF, BF. So it was the morning to take the final. I walk into the class. I said, Mr. Costas, if I get a 0 on the final, what will be my grade? He goes, well, we are on the point system. You get a D. Mr. Costas, if I get 100 on my final, what would I get? He says, we operate off the point system. You get a D. I said, Mr. Costas, you got one less paper to grade. Thanks. We had a good year. So I don't know what made me go into that. I kind of, where was I, Jerry?
Well, I think you were headed in the direction of, so now we both have to have a senior moment at one time, don't we?
Well, somebody from the audience can help us with that.
Oh, that's funny.
It was Sugar asked us a question.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. I got it. I found it. Thank you.
Go.
Squirrels. So because I didn't have anything to do during the day, I realized that I learned living skills because I had what I had to go through that schools weren't even teaching. They weren't even making us aware that we needed to learn this stuff, much less tried to teach us this stuff. So I went to high schools and spoke to high schools, and I talked about sex, drugs, and money, and I knew about 2 of them. Then the president of a bank in Mount Vernon, Ohio, calls me up. I was 28 years old, and he says, "Phil, I heard you speak. What do you charge?" I said, "Charge? What a great idea." And I said, $25. He said, "Great." And I went, "Ooh, I should have said 30." So now you know which one I didn't know about. But I would say you start, one way to do this is have a local fee. When we started Humor Consultants back in 1981, I made a strategic decision that I was going to do as much business in Columbus, because I like to sleep with my wife. And if I'm going to pay for my kids, I wanted to play with them. Then Ohio. Ohio's got 11 million people. I can't drive 3 hours in Ohio and still be in the state. Heck, you can drive 3 hours in Houston and still be in Houston. But I can't drive 3 hours in Ohio and still be in Ohio. So there's 11 million people there. Then outside of Ohio, I've spoken in every state except for North Dakota and Vermont. And every one of those speeches were referrals. I never marketed outside of Columbus or Ohio. So every speech I've gotten outside of Ohio has been organic. They came to me as opposed to me going to them. So build a reputation from where you are. You know, Jeffrey Gitomer, who's a great sales trainer, when he moved from Philadelphia to Charlotte, he had what he called the 50 butt rule. If there was a meeting and there were 50 butts there, he was there to let people know who he was, what he was offering. So you build that. So I had, when I started here, this is my fee schedule, my first fee schedule. And you said I had humor consult, and I was very cute, Ants Inc. I did Humor Consultants, Ants Inc. Isn't that funny? Right. And then in the middle, we had assisting in the enjoyment of everything. So here's my first fee. This is a 1981, 1982 fee schedule. For a 1 hour speech in Columbus, Ohio was $300. For a play shop or a seminar up to 4 hours was $500. And for consulting per day, it was $700. And then my speeches outside of the state was $457 and $950 and $350. Now, it all depends upon your skill level. Now, if you get your skill level to a certain point, I believe you should start off by charging like $4,500, because that's what the marketplace expects. If you're charging less than $45 and you're dealing with a professional meeting planner, they'll write you off to say you're not a professional because you don't charge enough. So you got to build your skills. You know, say it took me 6 years, and thank God for high school students, because that's a tough audience. Those people are brutal. You better come with something valuable to them. You better be able to get and hold their attention, because if not, they'll chew you up and spit you out. So it all depends on where you are and what the marketplace is, you know, and it's how you handle the conversation. People ask me, how much do you charge? I said, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? I say, prescription without examination and diagnosis is around practice. I don't know what you're looking for. I can't tell you what I charge before I can find out what you look for. So I have them fill out our questions for customizing. I have their direct reports fill out questions for customizing. I have their supervisor fill out questions for customizing. It's on our website. And then once I get those in front of me, I can tell you what they're looking to, what they want to accomplish. Then I can tell them what they want to accomplish. And then from there, you create your value. So it's a process. It's not an event. Another thing you can do is you can say, here's my fee, but I can have a sponsor. I had a number of companies in Columbus, Ohio that sponsored, that had me work with them on a regular basis. We had like an athletic club. We had an office furniture club. We had a copier company. I was on Sunny 95 every Monday morning for 6 years. So when a client didn't have my full fee and I wanted to take the engagement, because I can't inventory an hour. You know, you can't say I'm going to save this hour and sell it later. If you don't sell that hour, you can't sell it. Once it's gone, it's gone. And there's getting in front of an audience and getting people to see you, because it's hard to explain. If you get good at this business, you can't put it into words on how good it is you are to the client. The client has to see you, because we're selling an experience. It's like there's the album and there's the concert, two completely different products. The album and the concert. The album is music. The concert is an experience. Well, we're selling an experience. Unless they experience what we're doing, they can't set a value. So I made a deal with my clients that if somebody didn't have my full fee, I would say that they're sponsoring me. Now, would they pay me the difference in the fee? No. I just appreciated them paying me on a regular basis, being a regular client. So when I sent my agreement, I said it's being sponsored by the Athletic Club of Metro 5, by Sunny 95, by Thomas W. Ruff Companies, by O'Brien Business Equipment. And then when I sent the client the thank you note, I gave them a list of my clients with their addresses and said, because they sponsored me into this program, you might want to thank them. Now, tell me, what kind of impact did that have on my clients when, unbeknownst to them, just from time to time, they get these thank you notes in the mail from people thanking them for sponsoring me into their program? How do you think that positioned me and their clients? So these are things that you can do, that you're always trying to add value to the equation. And then I'll share with you, this is a great story, and I think we got plenty of time, right? We're good.
I think we're doing great. Yep.
Okay. I had a client call me up and said, Phil, I want to sponsor you into the AMCO Transmission Dealers Association's annual convention. I said, great. He said, now it's coming up in a few months, so you got to get on this quickly because we're operating off a time issue. I said, Mr. DeBose, I said, no problem. I said, who runs the association? He says, the guy named Mike Ganji. I says, well, may I contact him because I want to customize my program based on what their needs are, and I got to find out what their needs are. He said, yeah, no problem. Just give him a call. So on Thursday, I called him. I said, hi, Mike Ganji, this is Phil Sorrentino. Mike DeBose gave me your name, and he wants to sponsor me to speak on your convention. Is now a good time to talk? By the way, there's a tip. Always ask people if this is a good time to talk, because you're an uninvited interruption into their environment. And if you don't ask them for permission to talk to them, they have every right to hang up on you. Even when I would call my house and my daughter would pick up the phone, I'd say, Serena, is now a good time? Because whenever you call anybody unannounced, you're an uninvited interruption into their environment, and you must be respectful for that and ask permission if you can continue. So I said, is now a good time to talk? He said, no, I'm in the middle of something. I said, well, here's my this is back when we had 800 numbers, so you know how long ago this was. I said, here's my 800 number. Could you give me a call when you can? Because Mike DeBose wants to sponsor me at your convention coming up in Cancun. Boom. Called him on Friday. I said, Mike, is now a good time? He said, no, I'm in the middle of something. Boom. Call him up on Monday. I said, Mike, this is Philly's time. He said, listen, buddy, if you keep bugging me, there's not a chance in hell that you're going to speak at my convention. I said, Mr. Ganji, may I respond to that? He goes, yeah. I said, listen, dude, I don't need to chase anybody. I was just under the impression that you had a time issue, and Mr. DeBose told me to get in touch with you in a term because there was a time issue involved. I said, I am now going to put you in a pile that I call never call again for the rest of my life. Would you like to respond to that? He goes, no. They hire me anyway. $12,500 for a 1-hour speech, plus Susan and I for a week at the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun, Mexico. Now, here's the rest of the story. Just before Ganji comes up and he always at his convention gives this, he's an egomaniac, obviously, you figured that out by now, but he always gives the state of the association, you know, what all the stuff he's done and how much great he is and everything else. Well, he stands up at this convention, he says, I'm sorry, I can't give you the state of association because something happened. Just before it's her turn to come up on stage, he found out his uncle died. His mother's sitting in the audience, and that's her brother. Just found out about it. So he stands up in front of 600 people at the convention. He stands up and he says, guys, I can't give you my normal State of the Union address because something came up and I have to deal with it. Here's our speaker. That was my introduction. So I get up there, and if I do say so myself, I nailed it. Grand slam, home run out of the ballpark. After it got done, Mr. Ganji came up and he says, Phil, I said, yes, sir. He said, you can take my name off of that pile. Is that cool or what? Now, here's my question. Was I worth $12,500 for a 1-hour speech for that convention? Every nickel. Because he didn't have a professional to get that convention started on a positive note, even though something extremely negative happened. That would have been a disaster. But because he was smart enough, or Mr. DeBose was smart enough to hire a professional who can handle those kind of situations and save the day. So you never know. So feel good about what you do and go to the marketplace and get what you can, because cash flow is cash flow, but have a reason to do it, negotiate better, and learn how to position yourself. I hope that was helpful.
Great answer. Great answer. We had a couple more questions. I think you may have answered this one in the process. Christine Elliott was asking, Phil, how long will it take for you and Susan to train me to become a paid speaker? I've never gotten paid to speak, always did it for free of charge. And then I'll back it up with this one as well. Tyranny asked, how do we get started with your coaching and speaking services and training? I think we can probably put some of that information in the chat as well. But yeah, how long will it take for me to become a paid speaker, and how do we get started with coaching and speaking services from Phil Sorrentino?
Well, do the assessment, the Marcus Buckingham assessment, and then either call me at 614-736-6990 or Phil@humorconsultants.com, and we'll set a time and we'll go over that thing first, and then we'll decide whether we want to go from there. About how do you charge, that would again be a private conversation, because there's a skill level. People all have come up to me many times and say, God, Phil, I'd love to do what you do. Here's my tips. Number one, keep your day job. Number two, save all cash. Think barter first. Because if you can't sell what you have for barter, you're never going to be able to sell for money. So I've gotten office furniture. Jerry and I had 2 cars due to barter once. We were driving Chryslers, right? What did you had, a New Yorker? What did you have?
Yes. I had the New Yorker, white with the Landau top and the blue leather interior.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I had, but we did that on barter.
You were driving the sports car. I think it was the LeBaron convertible, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're right. I had 3 kids and a wife in braces. I obviously didn't get any, but I had 3 kids and a wife in braces. I bartered for, just clothing, a copier. I bartered for my copier. So keep your day job, save all cash, join Toastmasters, because Toastmasters will allow you to help you with your speaking skills. And then be involved in the ATS family of companies. Because when you do that, you'll get access to a lot of great people that have a lot of great ideas to help you. Yeah, Greenleaf. I was doing a thing for Ashton Chemical, and I was coming back two weeks later to do another thing for him. So again, I'm proactive. I go to the head of the resort. This was a resort that had 3 golf courses, 30 minutes south of Orlando, Greenleaf Golf and Tennis Resort. So I go in there and I get the general manager. I said, hey, I'm coming back here in 2 weeks. Why don't I do something when I'm here? He goes, well, let me see your stuff. I showed him my stuff. He said, wow, Phil, this is great stuff. He says, I'd love to have you, but I don't have anything like this in my budget. I go, really? He goes, yeah. I said, well, I'll take trade. He said, really? I said, yeah, I'll do barter with you. $18,000 later, I ended up getting a credit at a 3 golf course resort, 30 minutes south of Orlando for $18,000. Did I take up golf? That's when I took up golf. And when the Sorrentino family went on vacation, guess where we went? The Greenleaf Golf and Tennis Resort. Now, I'm very cost effective. When I go into designer shoe warehouse, I go to the back left corner and go at the sales rack first before I work my way up to the regular price shoes there. So I always try to get a bargain. But trust me, there's nothing like walking into a pro shop and going, I'll take that and that and that and that and that and that and that. It was a great feeling. I never could do that until then. So yeah, that's another barter I did. So number 1, keep your day job. Number 2, save all cash. Number 3, join Toastmasters. And number 4, get involved with ATS.
Awesome. All right. I think that's the wrap up on the questions we have so far. So we'll let you get back on your projected target there.
Well, unless anybody else wants to share something or they've got something to say from their point of view and their body of knowledge.
I will keep
What, Susan?
Situation.
Oh, he says they can't talk on it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why we're passing them along this. It's the in the seminar mode or the webinar mode. It does that.
All right. To quote Homer Simpson, don't. All right. Enjoy a servant's attitude. That's page 6. You can have all the quality in the world. You can have all the service in the world. But if you deliver it in a style that doesn't make the customer feel good, you've lost. But you can drop a little bit on quality. You can drop a little bit on service. But if you make the customer feel good and trust you can make it right, you've won. Style is as important as substance. Now, your substance keeps you in during the long term. Your style keeps it in when things aren't going as well as you would like and things aren't going as well as our customer would like. So our checkup for service. I have a strong desire to realize my full potential as a human being, to be your best I can, whatever I set out to do. Because we're telling you to be your best, we're not telling you to be perfect. Being perfect is being right. Being your best is willing to be wrong. Number 2, I make a firm commitment to invest my talent and resources only in those that deserve my best effort. The key word there is commitment. If you have a problem with anything in your life, don't ask yourself, why do you have a problem? That's too tough of a commitment. That's too tough of a question. Ask yourself, why can't I be committed to this policy? Why can't I be committed to this procedure? Why can't I be committed to this relationship? Because when you can answer the reason why you can't be committed, you'll know why you have the problem. You'll never be more successful than your ability to commit, especially in relationships. Sit back in that relationship. Well, I'm going to wait till he makes his commitment before I make my commitment. You know, I've made commitments before and they haven't worked out. So I'm out of the commitment business. It'll never work out. Because it starts with you being committed to making it work. That at least gives you a shot to make it happen. But you can sit back and you can make a commitment and do the best you can, but it doesn't work. But you know you did your best. You can leave that relationship with your head held high and your shoulders back. And you say, you know what? I did my best with this relationship, but it didn't work. But I know I did my best. So you can leave that relationship feeling good. I can't tell you how many people have gotten back to me saying, Phil, that concept changed my life. You gave me the courage to leave a relationship that I knew I was doing my best, but it wasn't working out. But when I finally decided I knew I was doing my best and it wasn't working out, it was time to leave that relationship. So the key word there is commitment. Next, I'm willing to give all that I have and all that I am to help others achieve. I'll ask my audience, how many of you get paid what you're worth? I said, I hope I didn't get, I forgot how it is. Oh, I'm getting paid what I'm worth. No. And that's worth, I got a story about worth. I was speaking for Timken, the roller bearing company in Akron, Ohio, and the president of Caterpillar followed me that day. And his message was riveting. He came up to me and he said, Sorrentino, you're a piece of work. I said, Mr. Despain, you should be happy that I was good because I would have sucked. I'd had to bring you up from the dregs. You'd had to bring this audience up from the dregs. But because I set you up, you were able to take this audience to the next level. He said, boy, that's true. Here's his story. Started sweeping the floor at Caterpillar when he was 17 years old and had a really good work ethic. And one day in the parking lot, a union rep put a gun to his head, literally put a gun to his head and said, you're making us look bad. If you keep this up, we're going to hurt you. He didn't listen. He went on and ran a plant in Cleveland, Ohio, ran a plant in Japan, started a plant from scratch in Mexico, and then ended up back at the plant in Peoria, Illinois, 4,500 employees, and now he's running the joint. And he goes, let me see what's going on. And he found out they were losing a lot of money. Now, in the speech, he actually said the number. So I called him back and said, Mr. Despain, I just want to share with you. I'm sharing your story in my presentation right now. I got to that point. I mentioned the number. And he goes, Phil? I said, yes, sir. Could you try not to use that number? He said, that's kind of an internal number. I'd rather not have that out in public. I said, well, can I say a lot of money? He said, yeah, you can say a lot of money. So they were losing a lot of money. And he said, we need to find out why. And he does all this research. And he got it down to one word. One word. He kept wondering, it's got to be better. Guess what the word is? Worth. WORTH. How do we get everybody to know how worthy they are? And how do we get them to bring that worth every day to the organization? So he wrote a book, A&D, Dignity for All, How Value-Based Leadership Can Transform Your Organization. Incredible book. And him and I contact regularly. Matter of fact, with one client, I was working with the top Hampton Inns, the top the top-rated customer service Hampton Inns in the country. And how about this? They're still trying to get better. They were such a good client. I said, I had them read the book. I had everybody in the audience read the book, and then we talked about it. And I said, what if I could get Jim on the call? Would you guys like to talk to him? And he was gracious enough to get on a conference call with the people from the Hampton Inn and respond to them after reading his book. He's still a good friend of mine. He lives in Naples, and we talk regularly. And so you never know what relationships you're going to create, and dignity for all, how value-based leaders. So how do we at ATS Business University in Ricasa get everybody that we talk to know how worthy they are? And how do we get them to bring that worth not only to themselves, but to their family and to their community every day? That's what we're attempting to do here with this organization. And every one of you is wanting to get it done. So how worthy are you? We're all worthy. And that's what Antonio, Diana, Grace, Tempest, and everybody else are trying to do together. How do we make everybody more worthy? So creed is to live by. In the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. It's easy to love the lovable. It's tough to love the unlovable. And some people are so craving attention, they'll do behavior that's destructive to them and destructive to people around them just to get attention. So people need love the most when they deserve it the least. Next, Joe Walsh said, life's been good to me so far. My Maserati does 185. I lost my license. Now I don't drive. Then there was a Jewish guy that said, forgive us our screw ups as we forgive those who screw up against us. Oh, come on. Like God doesn't have a sense of humor. Look at us. She better have. How about this one? Why do we have nothing written by Jesus? Think about that. Why do we have nothing written by him? Pretty good question, isn't it? I've had some weird answers, like he was the Word. He had somebody else write for him. He couldn't write. Yeah, like God incarnate couldn't write. I don't think so. Here's my guess. Why we had nothing written by him. Your path is different than my path. Tempest's path is different than Antonio's path. Susan's path is different than my path. So Jesus didn't want to write something down, because if he did, everybody'd say, oh, we know Jesus wrote this. You have to do this. We know he wrote it. So it all comes down to free will and faith. And if you knew exactly what the deal was, you wouldn't need faith. Next, and a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. I once said this in a seminar. If Simon and Garfunkel wouldn't have written this today, they might have said, and a person hears what they want to hear and disregard the rest. Lady stood up in the back room and said, no, they were right the first time. Next, if it is to be, it is up to me. Think about this. 20 letters, 10 words, each word, 2 letters. Each, if it is to be, it is up to me. When you quit blaming everyone else in your life, why you are where you are in your life, you've given up your freedom. But when you finally take responsibility for where you are and say, I'm here where I am right now because of me. And because of me, I can do something about it. But you don't have to go it alone. You've got us to help you. You've got us an example. You've got people in this organization that may have been through what you've been through and can share with you what they did to get you where they are, so you can do what you can do to get you where you are. That's what we're all about. Check your service potential. They're optimistic. If you look for a snake, you'll find one. If you look for money, you'll find one. What you look for is what you find. You get what you focus on. I'll prove it to you. Everybody pay attention. Everybody looking? Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Pay attention. Ready? Feel your underwear. Until I said feel your underwear, none of you felt your underwear. But the second I said feel your underwear, you actually could not feel your underwear. Unless you weren't wearing any, and that's big dry cleaning bills. You get what you focus on. So if you focus on the good, you create the good. If you focus on the bad, you create the bad. It's the classic story of Bobby and Billy. And by the way, you can tell classic stories, but make sure you tell them as a classic story, because you set it off. If you get into a classic story and you don't tell people it was, there's cynics in the audience saying, oh, I've heard that before. He just uses other people's material. But if you say, many of you heard this classic story, the cynic in the audience go, oh, I've heard that classic story. So you can literally take somebody's attitude and change them by setting it up the right way. So you say, many of you have heard this classic story about the 2 boys, Bobby and Billy. Now, Bobby was a negative boy. He was so negative, they had to send him out to be developed. We'll send that joke out to be developed. Now, Billy was a positive boy. He was so positive. They put Bobby, the negative boy, and put him in a room full of toys. They did Billy, the positive boy, and put him in a room full of horse manure. They went back an hour later, and Bobby, the negative boy, said, listen, somebody gave me a toy once and took it away from me. So if I can't have these toys, nobody can have them. He broke every toy in the room. He could have been in heaven, but because of his attitude, he wasn't able to take advantage of the heaven he was placed. Now we go check on Billy, and Billy's got that horse manure, and he's pitching it. They said, Billy, you're weird. He said, yeah, I know that, but I figured this out. He goes, what do you mean you figured this out? He said, I figured this out. All this horse manure, there's got to be a pony someplace. Now, how many of you heard that story? Here's the twist. So when you do a classic story, tell the classic story, but if you can have your own twist afterwards, then it becomes yours again. Here's the twist. The bigger the pile of the horse manure, the bigger the pony. The bigger the problem that you have in your life, the bigger the opportunity that's locked in that problem. Mankind has made its greatest strides dealing with its greatest problems. This COVID-19 issue, we're going to make strides dealing with this because it's such a great problem. There's going to be a lot of good that's going to come out of this. Now, don't get me wrong, the 20-some hundred people that lost their lives yesterday, we need to pray for their souls and pray for their families' souls. I'm not taking away from anything of the tragedy of what this thing is, but there will be good that will come out of it. Next, they're enthusiastic. Comes the Greek word in theos, which means God within. Are you honoring the God within you? Next, they're individualistic. If two people agree all the time, one isn't needed or one's lying. And if two people disagree all the time, they're both not needed. We're all unique when we come to the table, and unless they're imaginative. Do you use your imagination? The greatest book I love on imagination is How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. I'm a big fan of Leo da Vinci, and this is a great book. It says, by capturing the very essence of da Vinci's life and genius, Michael Gelb guides us in discovery and understanding of the boundedness of our own human potential. 7 steps to genius every day. That's the subtitle of the book. So are you nurturing your subconscious mind? Are you nurturing your creativity? That's what you should be doing. All right, flip the page.
Mr.
Yes,
Sorrentino.
Yes, sir.
If I may interrupt you.
Please, anytime.
This would be a great spot for this question too, I think, with what you've been talking about. And if anybody hasn't noticed, I mean, we have an international audience with us today, so please forgive me if I mispronounce this name. But this question came from, I believe it's pronounced Vijaya. And Vijaya asked, Phil, please tell me, what's the trick to ask better questions to myself to get the better things in life, especially when I'm already in a state of confusion?
Become a third party and hover over yourself and take notes of what you're saying to yourself. Because when you take it from the mental plane, from the spiritual or mental plane and bring it to the physical plane, then you can do it. And then you can eliminate those. So what is your self-talk? Write them down and then put lines through them and eliminate them. Make it an exercise to get rid of them. Trust me, because we all have negative self-talk. It's how do you get rid of it? There's a book on that too, but that's the most simplest answer to that question is capture them. Don't deny them. Again, as I started off, don't say I shouldn't feel that way. Quit shouldn't on yourself and quit shouldn't on everybody else. Acknowledge your feeling. You know, here's the way I feel. Now, what can I do to not feel that way? Or what can I do to go up the emotional guidance scale or down the emotional guidance scale? You got to realize you've been programmed for a long, long time. So it's going to take some while to unprogram yourself. You're not going to overcome those negative self-talks overnight. But if you stay with it over time, you'll eventually weed yourself out and you'll be able to make a difference and you'll come to the world with a whole different sense than if you didn't. There was another part of the question that I don't know if I answered, Jerry.
Well, I think you got most of it, but I think the second part was just based in, how do I get out of the confusion I'm in to be able to ask those questions of myself?
Yeah, it takes to reading books, finding good people. We've got some amazing people in India that are just incredible people. So hook up with them, let them help you. Be authentic, be transparent. That's how you'll heal yourself. So that's just a couple of suggestions. I hope those help.
Awesome. We'll let you continue.
Yeah. I like the interruptions, by the way. That's my fun stuff. Okay. So page 6, and now we're going to page 7. And maybe this will help the question we've got. Are you really listening? The person who wants to communicate effectively must first learn to listen effectively. Active listening can solve problems, many of our most serious problems. It can help us work productively and happily. So if you want to be an effective communicator, you must learn to be an active listener. Here is a self-exercise to help you pin down how good of a leader you're listening. Rate your scale on 1 to 5, 5 being perfect. Number 1, I enjoy listening to people talk. Then rate yourself. Number 2, I encourage other people to talk. Number 3, listen even when I do not particularly like the person talking. Number 4, the sex of the person talking makes no difference on how well I listen. I listen equally well to a friend, an acquaintance, or a stranger. I put away what I'm doing while someone else is talking. I look at the person that's talking and do that, shake your heads, because eventually they'll shake their heads. That's a feedback that you're giving them that they should encourage them to talk. Oh, well, there you go. There's the next one. I smile and nod my head and otherwise encourage the person to talk. I concentrate on what the person's saying and what emotion is behind saying. See, the problem with email, there's no emphasis. Like, for instance, I didn't say Phil Sorrentino was crazy. 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 Each sentence meant something different because the emphasis I put on the words. So when you're dealing with emails, you've got no emphasis. You don't know what they're emphasizing. So you can interpret that email in a lot of different ways because you're interpreting it through your filter. That's why you got to get yourself out of it and say, what is this person really trying to say, and not assume something. A lot of times we'll go, well, they're thinking that. Well, they're not thinking that. You're thinking that. And you think they're thinking that. And they're not thinking that. And so you go down the rabbit trail and not get to a mutually agreed upon response is best for all persons. So that's what gets us to number 11 on page 8. I try to understand what the person means. I seek understanding on why they're saying it. I never interrupt the person talking. I don't score very high on that one. I got to give me a low score on that one. If the person hesitates, I encourage his or her to continue. I restate what the person asked and ask if it's right. That's the echo technique, and that's probably someplace else on here. What'd you do this weekend? We went fishing. You went fishing? Yeah, I went up to Lake Erie. Lake Erie, yeah. We caught a trout. Now, you can't keep doing this because eventually they'll go, are you deaf? But the echo take is an amazing technique to encourage people to continue to talking. Just echo what last thing they said, and they'll have a tendency to continue to talk if you just use the echo technique. Challenge with your significant other, your spouse, the next time you have a conversation with them. Just practice the echo technique on them and see how it works. I withhold all judgment about the person's idea or message until I've heard all the person has to say about it. I listen regardless of the person's tone of voice, attitude, or choice of words. I do not anticipate what the person is saying. I just listen. I ask questions to get ideas to explain more fully. I ask for clarifications of words if I do not understand their context. And one of the things we talk about in ATS Business University, we also heard that content is king. That was a saying that was very popular. It's not true anymore. You want content. Antonio is the master of Google. I mean, he's just amazing what he can pull out of Google just by asking questions, putting phrases. He's a genius when it comes to that. And that's content. But where he's really brilliant is how does he make it relevant so we can get a benefit out of those information? And that's context. So can we take whatever content we have, even what I'm sharing with you today? I'm giving you a lot of content. Can you take it and through context, make it relevant so you can improve something in your life? That's the difference in today at content and context. So add up your points and then rate yourself. And then flip the page. Active listening. Active listening is not just hearing, but it's building a response to what is being said. Their actions will give you clues on what's important to them. Number 2, look for keywords that have emotions behind them. That'll give you some encouragement. Ways to encourage talking. Comment on general ideas in which you agree with potential clients. Discuss perspectives and focus on perspective. Check with the agreements and understand consistently. And repeat the last phrase. Benefits of listening. When we listen, we learn. When we express interest in the person we listen, we gain insight on how the person perceives her needs, her emotions, her desires. Because again, we're trying to help them in their world, not in our world. We give people the opportunity to let their guards down so we can hear what they say. We actively involve other people in the communication process that we want to take place, and we clarify any misconceptions. Barriers of listening. We have prejudice. We go in assuming what's going on. Haste. We're in a hurry. Agenda anxiety. We got something we got to say, and we're listening for them to finish. Lack of discipline. Discipline is a skill that you must work on. Uncontrolled passion. Sometimes you get so excited that listening to you is like sipping out of a fire hose. You're not slowing down. Your ego. See, I want to be people that have high self-esteem and low egos. I don't want to be around people that have high egos and low self-esteem, because people with high egos and low self-esteem, they make themselves feel good by making other people feel bad. But people with high self-esteem and low egos, they make themselves feel good by making other people feel loved, wanted, cared for, and good. Impatience. I was one of my clients was the most expensive athletic club in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm sitting there doing my workout. I'm reading the Wall Street Journal. And the owner of the club's walking down the stairs with his daughter, Kelsey. And I hear him, and he goes down. He says, "Kelsey, you need to have some patience." She looked, he says, "Daddy, I have patience. I just don't have it now." I fell out of my chair. I thought that was great. And how many remember when Christ said to the disciples, "You've been with me so long and you still don't get it"? Remember when he said that to him? Now think about it. Did he have a great product? Could Lazarus have written him a testimonial letter? Could you see Jesus' next brochure? Before, after. Number 2, who was his staff? God was his staff. Number 3, did he have a great strategic plan? He had the ultimate strategic plan. So think about it. He had a great product. He had a great boss. He had a great class. He had a great plan. And they still weren't getting the program. So no matter how good we have to offer the world, is the world going to get it the first time? Or the 5th time? Or the 10th time? Or the 26th time? So when we're trying to get messages out to the world, we need to be more patient and more persistent, because they're not going to get it the first time we tell them. You've been with me so long and you still don't get it. Assumptions. We assume something and it says to get clarification in unconscious habits. Some of us have never been taught to be a good listener. Tips: be open. Start listening from the first seconds. Concentrate on what's being said. Look for meaning behind what's being said. Avoid the temptation to interrupt. Ask questions that stimulate the person to talk. Clarify your understanding of what's being said. File away important points you made later. Take notes. Screen out interruptions and ignore distractions. Use facial expression and body language to increase in compensation, and don't overreact to highly charged emotional words. Look for meaning behind them. That's under the work smart, have fun, and make money. Working smart is listening better. All right. Anything else we got going before we move to the next?
I think we're doing pretty good, sir. I think we're doing pretty good.
Okay. Where'd my pen go? Gotta grab another pen.
You can use mine.
That'd be nice. Okay, now we're on encouragement affecting others' behavior. This is my leadership components. Remember, for you to grow your organization, you need to find leaders. You need to find people to replicate yourself. You're going to have some people that go on and do this and not really be engaged and not be, but they're going to do this well enough that they may just want to earn $500 extra a month or something like that. You know, there's 78 million baby boomers, and half of them are looking for a way to make extra money. No, 76 baby boomers, and half of them, 38 million baby boomers right now are looking for ways to make an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. So you're going to have those in your organization. But what's going to really catapult you to a higher level is for you to find leaders who want to take this, just like you people are spending 2 days listening to us. Spending 2 days listening to us. You're our leaders. You're the people that we're going to celebrate at the OSU football stadium, that you're going to be one of the millionaires. And when you're out there, you're just looking for future millionaires. Because once they plug into what we have, they'll be on a path that's going to get more beneficial to them. But what I want to do is, if you see encouragement affecting others' behavior, it's been estimated that 90% of the actions that takes place in the world are a result of the encouragement of 10% of the people. This will always be a demand for strong leaders. Your ability to get things done is direct proportion to your ability to be an enjoyable encourager. You have a blank space to the right there of, are you ready for encouragement? I'm going to give you the 4 styles of leadership that I want you to write in that blank space right now. Anybody got any questions?
No questions at this moment.
Okay, number 1, there's the non-encourager. If you don't tell people what to expect from them, you have no right to expect anything from them. So part of your job when you bring people into the Riqueza or ATS Junior Business University is to help them set expectations. That's one of the biggest jobs we have. What are your expectations? Because we can't help them unless we know what they're expecting. We can't adjust our communication. We can't adjust our suggestions. So never be a non-leader or never be a non-encourager. Your job is to set expectations. The second style is the policeman. We've all had leaders that try to police us. And what do you tell a cop? As little as possible. Why? Because you don't want it to be used against you in the court of law. So if you try to police your people, they're going to give you very little information. So you never want to be a policeman. Number 3, there's the super leader. And the super leader claims to be magnanimous, claims to have an open door policy, right? But really is micromanaging you. So you'll go in there, you say, you got a problem decision to make, and you walk into their office and say, I've got this problem, I've got this decision. And the super leader, the micromanager says, give me your problem, give me your decision, give me your thing, I'll work on it. So the person leaves and they've got a problem. Harvard Business Review called these the stinking, squeaking monkey syndrome, where people in the workforce would have monkeys on their backs and they're dealing with a super leader. They come in and the super leader is trying to micromanage them. So the super leader acquires all their monkeys and then the person goes back and the super leader has to deal with all the monkeys. So he's got these monkeys stinking and squeaking and stinking and squeaking. He puts them in his monkey case. He goes home and his spouse says, I've got dinner. Yeah, I can't worry about dinner. I got monkeys I got to deal with. So the next morning they come in and say, Phil, how'd you do with our monkeys? You know, I didn't even get to your monkey yet. I got all these other monkeys I'm dealing with. And they're going, yeah. So you never want to be a super leader. You never want to be a monkey collector. What you want to be, and that's the 4th style of leadership, is the coach. Does the coach throw the pass? No. Does the coach kick the ball? No. Does the coach block? No. The coach praises, encourages. So when somebody comes to you with an issue or a monkey, you know, how'd the monkey get that way? Why do you think the monkey's like that? Who was responsible for the monkey? You know, Jerry, you know as much about this monkey as I do. Do me a favor. Could you go back? I want you to pick 3 ways in which you would handle this monkey. And then are you available tomorrow at around 10 o'clock? Good. Then come back into my office at 10 o'clock and we'll discuss the 3 ways in which we'll deal with the monkey. So that's what true leaders do. That's what true encouragers do. They're not non-encouragers. They set expectations. They're not policemen. They're not trying to catch you doing stuff wrong. They're not a super leader. They're not micromanaging. They're a coach. They're praising. They're encouraging. They're letting you find answers for yourself because you'll be more powerful when you do. So I hope you put that on the right hand of your handouts in that blank space. Now, are you ready for encouragement if you are a clear thinker? There's a thing called the SWOT analysis that we use a lot, which are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, then objective strategies and action steps. So you go through an analytical problem. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats based on this issue? Then based on us brainstorming there, what should be our objective coming out of here? Then what strategy do we need to implement to get that objective? And then what do we need to do to implement our strategy? Emotional as well as stable. You need to be emotion, but you need to be stable. I mentioned earlier, we're all yo-yos. Some of us have longer strings than others. The key to life is shorten your strings so your ups aren't so up and your downs aren't so down. Skillful with people, responsibility seeker, highly self-motivated, enthusiastic, able to communicate effectively. You're tactful. You're smart, but you have emotional intelligence. That's what makes team players are 3 things. Number 1, they're hungry. Another, they'll go the extra mile. They'll help a lot. They're smart. They'll figure out what's happening. And they're humble. They're not there for themselves. They're there for somebody else. So they're hungry, they're humble, and they're smart. That's what makes a great team member. And we can talk about that later, and I've got other stuff to cover there. They're courteous. They say please and thank you. They're cheerful. They show up with a good attitude. There's a smile on their face no matter what's going on. Able to take criticism, rebuff, discouragement, and failures in stride and keep going. And they're inclusive as close to exclusive. They want people to be part of the team, not excluding them from the team. So think about it. That's a lot of stuff to be a good leader, but you need all that stuff to be a good leader. It's just the way it works. So clues you can use. We got anything else? Anything new, Jerry, from the peanut gallery?
You know, I did have a question rolled in from the peanut gallery. And the question is much deeper than it sounds, I think. But why is humor so important to our business?
Oh, I got a guy. I could find that handout, but why have humor and how to have humor? Because when you're having fun, you get more done. Where I learned this, I mentioned earlier, I was 5'1" when I graduated from high school. So I didn't reach puberty until between my graduating from high school and going to college. But I was a swing manager at a chain of restaurants. They had 49 restaurants. And when they gave the manager the weekend off, they let me take over the store. And I looked like I was 11 years old. So I don't show up and be autocratic or dictatorial or putting people down. I show up with the idea of let's make this fun. So that's where I learned, and not consciously, it wasn't a conscious thing. I just figured it what's worked. I showed up at these restaurants as the manager that made it fun. And I realized when you make work fun, you get more done. You're more engaged, you're more focused, you're more collaborative. There's been studies, and I don't have the statistics with me, it's in one of my handouts, that when people are enjoying what to do and the customer satisfaction goes up by X amount of percentage and people buy more by X amount of percentage. I mean, think about your own life. You spend more money with the organizations that you enjoy going to see. You go to a restaurant. I always want to open a restaurant and call it, I don't know, where do you want to go? Would that be a great name for a restaurant? I don't know, where do you want to go? Hey, let's go there. Cliches. I don't know, where do you want to go? But here's a tip I give, just a little tip about your attitude. If I'm working with a restaurant business and I'm dealing with servers, I'm saying, would you like an idea that I guarantee you, if you do what I suggest you do, you'll have more tips? And they said, sure. And I go around to each individual. I go, who's your hero? Who's your hero? Jerry, who's your hero? Tell me one of your heroes in life.
Superman.
Superman. Okay, Superman's one of your heroes. And you go around. A lot of people say their moms and their dads, and that tells me something about them when they say that. So I say, okay, I want every one of you that from now on, I want every time you go to a table, your hero is sitting at that table. Jerry, every time you go to wait on this table, Superman literally is sitting at that table. Do you think your voice might sound different? Do you think you might stand a little taller and straighter? You think you might pay a little bit more attention to that table and give them better service? So those are the little things that you adjust your humor, you adjust your perspective, and you can truly make a difference. So great question.
Awesome. Great answer.
Clues you can use. Set goals and objectives. First of all, you need to set goals. Here are the 5 basic operations functions of encouragers. Set goals or objectives. Next, break it down to the tasks. Here's what you need to do to set our goals and objectives. Then you need to communicate those tasks and then encourage people. Yes, dear? Got something for me? Oh, wait. Oh, good. Thank you. Next, measure performance. See, she's keeping me in line. She's good, baby. Measure performance. People want to be measured. People want to know that they're making a difference. You know, how do you create engaged employees? Number one, people want to be recognized. The one thing that Antonio does, and I don't even know if he does it consciousness, every time we're on a call, he mentions everybody's name at least once. Have you ever noticed that? That's because people want to be recognized. They want to know that they're there. Number two, you want to know, are you making a difference? Like, for instance, the people that fix the ice machines at the hospitals make a difference from the pregnant lady that's ready to have a kid that eats ice chips. But until we let that person that fixes the ice machine at the hospital realize that you're making a difference in pregnant ladies having kids because you have the ice machine working right. They need to know they're making a difference. And the last one, they want to be measured. Good people. How am I doing? How are you telling whether I'm doing good or not? What measurement am I coming to work and I need to be accountable to find out whether I'm doing good? Those are the 3 things it takes to create employee engagement. And a lot of times I'll get hired. How do we create employee engagement? And that gets to measure performance. Encourage development by giving opportunities, stimulation, and growth. Flip the page 11. These are the current tools in which encouragers use can become effective. The goals, priorities, you notice we'll talk a lot about goals, are very important. Identify key problems and areas and problem-solving techniques. I have actually a formula to solve a problem. I have a formula to make a decision. Encourage set good example for those who would leave. They say please and thank you. They play reasons behind doing it. You know, we hear that Tony Robbins would say 25% is how-tos, 75% is why-tos. I disagree with that. I think 20% is how, and ATS Business University's got the hows. 30% is why. Why are you doing this? But 50% is will. Do you have the willpower? Do you have the self-discipline? Do you have the self-control? Because you can know how to do something. You can know why to do something. But you don't have the willpower, the self-control, the self-discipline, it's going to happen. Next, practice enforcement. So measure performance and model progress. You can read all that later. Next, loyalty inventory. I don't talk about customer service. I don't talk about customer. I got 4 minutes. I don't talk about customer satisfaction. Oh, wait, I'm already past. No, I got 4 minutes.
You're fine.
And there's we got a little wiggle room too, don't we?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Could you tell Susan I'm good? Because sometimes she doesn't. No, never mind. First break over the rule. The Gallup organization interviewed 80,000 people in 400 companies. And here's the bottom line of their research. You can have all the employee assistance programs. It's how do we create customer loyalty? Customer service and customer satisfaction, those are table stakes. How do you create loyal people? Number one, you have to be accurate. In other words, first of all, do what you say you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do. Be accurate. If you're going to show up at 9 o'clock, show up at 9 o'clock. You got to be accurate. And when you screw up, and you will, you have to be fanatical about superior recovery to the extent that the client is happy that you just screwed up because what you did to make up for it. So when I'm working with a client, I'm saying, what can we do when we screw up that has high value to the client, but low cost to the organization? They may need to extend a warranty. You know, because we screwed up, we'll extend your warranty for a year, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. When I owned my own restaurant, if anything was wrong at the table, if we did anything wrong, I comped the whole table. I didn't just comp the meal that we did something wrong. I comped the whole table. Now, did I get a reputation in the community because of that? You're darn straight I did. Man, they made a mistake, but they let us all eat for free because they made that mistake. Man, those people are serious. And I learned this through a cousin called Lazarus. Number two, be available. We're a 24/7 world today, kids. And if you're not available and somebody thinks they need you, they are literally a click away to find somebody else. Number three, you need to create an allowance. They need to know that you see the world through their eyes. Oh, Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. Do. So that has to do with asking questions and listen. And number four, give advice. The Ohio State University raised $1 billion. By the way, Christ walked on the earth a billion minutes ago. And what was their cost? How did they get people to give them $1 billion? They gave them nothing for that. How do you get somebody to give you $1 billion and they get nothing for giving you $1 billion? Well, when you give advice, even if you pay for the advice, they paid for their advice they got from the order, but because somebody gave them advice, number one, they paid for that advice once, but they benefit every time they use it. And then number two, you want to reciprocate. When somebody does something for you, you want to do something for them. Man, that was great. I know I'm paying you for it, but is there anything else I can do? Because that advice was very valuable to you. So those are the 4 steps to create advice. A couple other things, and then we're done. You can look, there's my why have fun at work and how to have fun at work. It's the last handout. When staff members enjoy their work and each other, customers buy more. A study revealed that for every 1% increase in employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction increased by 3%, which increased sales by 4%. And there's the other why have fun at work and how to have fun at work. I want to finish with a couple things. Number one, I want you to go back to the page where you put my choices. And I need some feedback. May I go to 11:45, Jerry?
Yes.
All right. I want everybody to go to that back page that we have some my choices, and I want you to fill in some blanks. What are you going to feel, think, be, do, have, and give to work smart? What are you going to feel, think, be, do, have, and have fun? And what are you going to be to make money? Are you going to, and I'll even give you cliff notes. Are you going to drink more water? Yeah, I'll put that down. Are you going to hang out with people that are different? Yeah, I'm going to put that down. Are you going to be more loving? Are you going to be more forgiving? Are you going to be responsible and quit being a victim? Are you going to learn to be a better salesperson? Are you going to find something that inspires you? Are you going to realize that 25% of the people out there don't like you and never will? Are you going to expect people to drive slow in the fast lane? I want you to put on that page, what are you going to do different based on the time we spent here together? Because the greatest compliment you can give any speaker is listen to what they say, be so impacted for what they say that you went out and implemented the idea. That's what great speakers do. So at this point, I'd like to do this. Now, normally I have half the audience stand up and give the other half a standing ovation. So I don't know what I'm going to do here. Let's say your phone number ends in an odd number. If your phone number ends in an odd number, I want you to give the people that phone number adds in an even number a standing ovation. I want you to scream and holler. I want you to give them high five. Now, those people that add in the even number, I want you to stand up and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, praise. I've never done this in reality. I don't know how this is going to work. But none of us give us enough praise and none of us get it. Well, let's just all do it. At the count of three, I want you to give each other and ourselves. What? Unmute your mics.
Unmute your mics. Yeah.
And I want you to give each other a standing ovation. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yay! All right. And last, I want to share with you the Celebrate You. I gave this to a teacher who gave it to a teacher who gave it to their students. There was a young girl in the class being abused. She got through the abuse and she went to college. When she was in college, she put this Celebrate You outside her dorm room in the hallway. And one day there was a knock on the door and she opened the door and there was a young man there, tears streaming down his face. And she said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I was on my way to get into my car and run it into a tree. But after reading this, I realized how stupid that would have been." I mean, think about this. I got it from somebody who gave it to a teacher, who gave it to a teacher, who gave it to a student that literally saved somebody's life. When you're involved in the ATS Business University, when you're involved in Ricasa, you never know the impact you're going to have on the world. But just keep impacting because it'll come back because we truly are making a difference. So I'm going to read it to you and then I'm done. Celebrate you. You are worth celebrating. You are worth celebrating. You are unique. In all the world, there's only one you. There's only one person with your talents, with your experience, with your gifts. No one can take your place. Only one of you was created, unique in your own way. You have an immense potential to love, to care, to create, to grow, and to sacrifice if you believe in yourself. It doesn't matter your age or your color or whether your parents loved you or not. Maybe they wanted to, but they didn't know how. Let that go. That belongs to the past. You belong to the now. It doesn't matter what you've been, the wrong you've done, the mistakes you've made, the people you've hurt. You're accepted. You're forgiven. You're okay. Celebrate you. Begin now. Give yourself a new birth today. You are you. That's all you ever need to be. You're temporary. You're here today. You're gone tomorrow. But today can be a new beginning, a new thing, a new life. You deserve that new life. It's given freely. That is the miracle of being. So celebrate the miracle and celebrate you.
Wonderful words, Phil. That's beautiful. I'm going to throw in one last question. We've got about a minute left that I've allotted for you here. And the question is, when there are big players in any industry who eat small fish, how will small players prove their worth and grow? And is there an option to live his dreams?
I mean, look at Uber, Airbnb. I mean, look at all these. They started as small players. This whole disruption environment we're in, there's never been a better opportunity for small players to go at this. It's a tremendous opportunity right now. No matter how small you think you are, you can make a difference. And that's what the ATS Business University and Ricasa is doing. You know, by big standards, we're still small, but we're going to make a difference. We're going to make this world a better place. We're going to give people a chance to really be who they are and understand their worth. So I would say be involved with us and do what you need to do, because you can make a difference from somebody. I mean, simply smiling at the person that's at the grocery store. Here's one thing. Listen, I'll leave this with. People say this is silly. How many know what this is? Anybody know what this is? Any guesses? Jerry knows what that is. You know what that is? That's a microwave. I can't tell you how many times during the day I'll say that to somebody when I'm out. I haven't been out in a while. But you let people know that and they'll just smile and laugh. And that may be the only smile and only laughter that person has for that day, but you were able to provide it to them. So that's how we can make a difference.
Awesome. Fantastic. The information, I was sitting here taking notes, and I was trying to think of a couple of key points just that I took from this. And as everybody knows, I've known Phil for a very, very long time. And I filled up pages. I don't even know how I can pick, 2 or 3 things to mention. So I hope you did the same thing. And I hope you can incorporate some of this into your lives today. Start today. And if we could just all unmute our mics and just pour into Phil Sorrentino and give him some of that positive energy that we're talking about. Can we all do that?
Woo-hoo, Phil.
And make sure pour into Susan.
Hey, Phil.
This was brought to you by Susan Sorrentino, your sponsor.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you so much.